Kyler Murray has been ridiculed, celebrated, mocked, measured, and memorialized by a statue at his alma mater, but he has never been under a microscope like this. When Murray returns to the starting lineup on Monday Night Football in Dallas, and that is only an assumption at this point, he must prove he is better than Jacobe Brissett, and that's a tall order for a short quarterback who cannot see the field like his 6'4" backup. And then there's the stress and what Murray might be feeling internally, because for the first time in his football life, somebody is coming for his job. And that's because Murray's shortcomings have been laid bare by the veteran Brissett, and when he returns, he needs to stay in the pocket. He can't bail at the first sign of trouble. He needs to accept contact in the really big moments when absolutely necessary. He needs to feed his wide receivers down the field and Trey McBride in the red zone. He needs to keep this offense looking the way it has the past 2 weeks. And that, folks, will require more than his trademark twitchy elusiveness, off-schedule brilliance, and electrifying athletic ability. That will demand real courage. That means playing the position and now not outrunning the position, a time when Murray must stand and deliver, or we all move on. Because more than anything, we need closure with this story and this player one way or another.
Kyler has a tough job coming up. He really does, because I think this entire city, maybe this entire country, has seen this offense be capable of winning football, arguably against two of the best teams in football.
All right, as I like to say, today's Bickley Blast brought to you by my great friends at Chapman BMW. Now back to Kyler Murray and what we're going to see in the next couple of weeks. We've got 2 weeks of downtime. What is going to happen between now and then? As we discussed in the 6 o'clock hour, after Jacobe Brissett's breakout performance in Indianapolis, which was a revelation to everybody, it was everybody who was ridiculing Drew Petzing's passing schemes were like, oh, these actually kind of work.
Maybe they are open.
Maybe they are open down the field. And then feeding the wide receivers. Wow, maybe we do have competent wide receivers. All that stuff came out of that game and has been in the air ever since. You heard Wolf yesterday. He thought Jacobe Brissett was better in his second game than his first game. So you wonder what's happening in that locker room. If there are wide receivers now who have been fed, do they want to go back to Kyler Murray? If there are people in that locker room who really don't like Kyler Murray's brand of leadership, do they want to move on to Jacobe Brissett? We've heard people rave about Kyler Murray's leadership. Marvin Harrison Jr. was among the most recent. So I'm really just spitballing here. But these are very, very fair questions after a backup comes in and lifts the offense the way Jacobe Brissett did.
And A.Q. Shipley joined us yesterday and kind of echoed some of the things you said in the blast there. He's got a tough job. He's got to prove that he can operate this offense in a manner that we saw Jacobe Brissett operate the offense. I think the offense certainly played well enough to win those games. I know they had opportunities to make one more play to actually win those games. But, Bick, something that's kind of struck me, and I don't know, that this could just be speculation, conjecture. It's certainly my opinion. I'm getting the sense there's something a little wonky going on, and I can't quite put my finger on what. Jonathan Gannon's press conference answers as of late doesn't mention Kyler by name. He's very kind of quick, almost reticent, if you will, with the nothing's changed, follow-up, nothing's changed. He was a little more loquacious with Burns and Gambo on his weekly radio show, but it's too early to tell. We'll see. The fact that it's still an assumption that he'll play against the Cowboys is odd to me. You would think that would be a 4-week mark. That they would, since he was questionable for the Colts game and a game-time decision, you would think that by the time the Cowboys game rolled around, they would be counting on him to be back for that. And it's just kind of like Gannon's kind of shut down the media in his press conferences, talking about the quarterback situation, talking about Kyler, mentioning Kyler by name. I don't know. I just wonder. The trade deadline is the day after the Cowboys game.
Okay, that's very interesting to me.
That's
very interesting to me, Tim, because if you were, say if the Cardinals were thinking to themselves, okay, you know what? Kyler's not happy. And again, this is just conceptual, theoretical. No reporting happening here. So we're clear. If Kyler Murray is in that room not happy for whatever reasons, okay, if the team is looking at Jacobe Brissett and saying, we need more of that, and if they're worried about Kyler Murray and next year and the contract and the cap hit and all that kind of stuff, would they be thinking of trading him right now? Because I'm telling you right now, you've got a team in the Minnesota Vikings that need a quarterback, and you got a team in the Minnesota Vikings with a head coach who thinks he can rehabilitate anybody, and he's got a real good track record to prove it, except for Carson Wentz, who is probably unredeemable. It's just a thought. Because if you were entertaining that, then he wouldn't play Monday night in Dallas.
Right. But the thought is, like, did Kyler Murray do enough this year that they have now made that decision? That we don't need him the rest of the season, that we're giving up on the season, and that we are giving up on them?
Does that mean you're giving up on the season if you trade Kyler Murray?
Yes.
Why?
They played arguably two of their best football games of the season.
Have you watched those last two games?
They lost both of the games, just like they lost they won two games with Kyler Murray. They won 0 games with Jacobe Brissett. And
Jared, you could make the Wolves said they played the best game of their season against the Packers. You could actually make the case they played better against the Colts and Packers than they did against the Saints and Panthers.
And these are two teams expected to make deep playoff runs.
The offense looked better. I agree with you completely. I just find it hard that
you're not going to pin the defense on Kyler Murray.
Are you moving? You're saying that you're moving on from Kyler Murray based on those first 5 games of this season.
I'm saying that would you think of trading him if you now realize we need a pocket quarterback? We need somebody to do what Jacobe Brissett does. We need to, because Jacobe Brissett's under contract for next year. So you could have Jacobe Brissett as your guy. You could draft a quarterback, especially if this season goes south. You might have that top 5 pick. Well, yeah, I'm just. This is all conceptual, folks.
And also, though, what does Kyler Murray think right now? If Kyler Murray is kind of in a mindset or a mental place where he's now not happy and he wants to move on, I don't know. I mean, and that because that's a factor as well.
Well, you wonder, like, is the coaching staff telling them, like, did you watch these last 2 games? We need you to play like this.
That's it.
This is how our offense works. And if Kyler's saying, well, that's not how I play.
Yeah. I don't get under center.
You don't design an offense for me to accentuate my strengths. And that's it. I've had enough of this, too. I don't.
That's what I'm saying, man. And it's ever since that game in Indianapolis, it's eggshells around this topic. That's what it feels like to me.
Just in their verbiage, the way they handle press conferences, everything. And that's all I'm saying. To me, this is just instinctual on my part. Could be wrong, could be nothing. There just appears to be something, I'll use the word again, something wonky going on between the Cardinals and Kyler Murray in this entire situation right now, here, today.
Burns and Gambo, during a great interview with Jonathan Gannon, asked if that kind of offense, the deep throws, the chunk plays, if they can translate with Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what the defense is giving them, you know what I mean? And so there's an element to that, too. What plays are we calling? What they decide to play in those moments. The one long one to Zay yesterday, they played a version of cover 2. And I call that a honey hole shot. You got a chance to throw a honey hole shot. You can try to rip it in there, and he did. So it's a little bit a tough answer for me, I guess, to answer that. But yeah, I think we need to continue on offense to be aggressive when we can. Try to generate explosives because we know explosives lead to points.
Sure.
And staying on the field, being efficient with what we're doing on mixed downs, and then obviously moving the chains on third down, and then scoring points in the red zone. When you look at our red zone yesterday, that's a thing, an area in that game where you look at everything and how could we be a little more efficient down.
All right, that was Jonathan Gannon on that. More on this. We're going to be over this all week, actually for a couple of weeks now. This is quite a twist in the football season.
Thanks for watching Bickley and Marotta. Click to see the latest Bickley Blast and hit the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.